Well, what's up? What's up, YouTube land? If you haven't heard by now, I don't know if you're sleeping under a rock, but the great Phil Robertson passed away. I want to say he was 78 years old. I'm not gonna miss that dude, man. I always watch those podcasts that they done, but I noticed over the last few months that he hadn't been there. He'd been less and less involved, but prayers for his family. You know, the Bible says you're supposed to rejoice when somebody passes, but our selfishness don't like it. What's up, Tony? How you doing? I just heart goes out to their family right now. You can't help but be sad. Phil was a great inspiration to a lot of people, man, coming from his background of being an alcoholic and being in the gutter and turning his life around. It just shows it's possible for anybody. It just depends on the work and the faith. But yeah, I was kind of shocked when I heard that. But you know, my pops, he's 82, I think. I'm fixing to be 83, and I watch him, in the way that he approaches life sometimes, and he doesn't never get in a hurry to do anything, right? But he also has got this unique way about him. He just respects everything that lives, and I don't care what it is. He may not like something, like a certain animal or whatever, and he still has that respect for it. And I think that gets lost these days. We're watching I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like the old generation is dying out, and this new way of life is coming by. Me and a friend of mine was talking about that 5G, and I ain't gonna get into a bunch of theories about it, but why the hell do we need 5G? I honestly think that that's a military ploy to be able to control people if it ever breaks out with those weapons that paralyze you, you know what I mean, without never having to throw a shot. You know what I'm talking about. He was telling me that, because see, he was in the military for a while. He was saying, bro, that's been out for a long time. They got them big, he's like, what do you think them Humvees with them big satellite dishes on them are? That's 5G. But if you don't know, you don't know. What's up, British Bulldog? Hopefully everybody's doing good out here today. Oh, man. Just getting back from fishing. Well, actually, I got back last night, but just getting up, moving around. That sun takes it out on anymore, man. I spend a couple of days out and like that. It's just like I get tired. I planned on going live with Hickerbill and them last night. I sat down after I got cleaned up, mate, and that was the last thing I remember until I woke up this morning. Well, let me get it situated here. Yeah, it's all over social media about old Phil. I do had a good impact on people, man, and I wish a lot more people would have that kind of impact. Oh yeah, had a great night. I slept like a baby. Oh well. Let's see here. Memorial Day. What's up, Harley? I see you with your little pimping eyes. Hopefully you're doing all right. Doing sleepisms. Man, sometimes, remember when you was a kid, you could never get up. All you wanted to do was eat and sleep. Now, it seems like that's what I'm about to turn back into. It seems like older I get, the more I just want to eat and go to sleep. My buddy gave me one of these electric lighters, which I know that's off topic, but I'm chipping on that thing. Oh, man. Let's see here. Let me find us something. We're just hanging out bullshitting. I ain't really talking about too much of nothing. Let's see if we can't find us something on field. Let's see what the hell. See what they're talking about.
Battling Alzheimer's and other health issues. Known for his unwavering faith, he often reminded us that death is
I thought Alzheimer's was like a memory thing. I didn't know it would kill you.
not the end, but a return to God's kingdom. His family announced his passing on May 25th, 2025, expressing gratitude for the outpouring of love and prayers. A private service is planned with details of...
Now, you want to know what's sad about this? There's going to be all kinds of people trying to make money on this. And it's like, that's the number one thing that people do these days. They don't care what kind of message they spread or nothing. They just all about trying to make a dollar, man. And it's sad too, right?
A public celebration to be shared later. Robertson's legacy as a devoted family man, entrepreneur, and devout Christian continues to inspire many. Phil Robertson, the beloved...
When I die, don't cry.
That's right.
Phil has an announcement.
Dance, sing, but don't cry when I die. When I die, you say, he made it because I watched him as he walked through the years, hurt back or no back.
So is this what came to your mind when you were awakened?
If someone asks, when I die, don't cry.
Phil has an announcement.
Dance, sing, but don't cry when I die. When I die, you say, he made it because I watched him as he walked through the years, hurt back.
I wonder if he kind of sensed
Duck
something.
Dynasty's Phil Robertson has passed away at 79.
All die. That is a fact. But in Christ, all will be made alive. Father, for our loved ones who have gone on before us, the saved, they're still alive. They're just separated from their body right now. Their bodies are in the cemetery, but their spirits, their souls are with you. And Lord, when you come back, Jesus, you're bringing them all back with you. Thank you for that great hope. Help us grab a hold of it with both feet, stand on it, not budge on it, and live happily ever after. Thank you, Father. In the name of Jesus, amen. All die. That is a fact. But in Christ,
I got it down to this. If you're pro-God and pro-America and pro-gun and pro-duck hunting, that's all I want.
That's simple right there, ain't it? You know, I find it easier when life is simple, man. Do we really need all these luxuries and shit? What's up, fucking Texas? What's up, Tex? Yeah, well, Cashville, we doing good, bro. I just was watching some stuff about Phil this morning, and I'm gonna tell you, we all should live or try to live that type of lifestyle. Now, I ain't saying everybody should be Phil Robertson, but you know, if you got everything you need, right? I mean, and it's okay to have wants, right? But I find it easier. As long as my basic needs are met, I'm good. It's when you start being greedy and selfish, that's when the trouble comes in. Because when you start doing anything and everything to try to achieve something, that's a little much. You know what I mean? Yeah, Catchville, he was a good man, dude. And like I say, he started out with nothing. Basically living off the land, catching fish and hunting, and that's how he fed his family. And God provided him and provided his offspring with a comfortable life. But it didn't start out that way. Sometimes they didn't know where their next meal was coming from. And then to me, when you put all your faith in God like that, and you just let him do for you, it seems to turn out a lot better. Yeah, I do too, Cashville. I look up to him too, man. That's why I say I doubt it'll be open to the public, bro. But I'm sure there'll be a line. I'm sure there'll be a parade route. You know what I mean? Because he was a soldier for God for sure, and people gonna pay their respects to that, and they're not gonna stop them. But you have to give, their family privacy too, because I mean they are mourning, which I'm sure seeing everybody lined up through the streets would do their heart good. But they know what kind of man he was. You know what I mean? It wasn't just an act. A lot of these people get on this internet, social media and stuff as an act. Yeah, he was fucking. I do too. I still watch even the old reruns. I got them recorded in there on my DVR, and or however you say that thing. Yeah, Krieger. That's a good point. We might even watch old Duck Dynasty. Y'all watch any of that Duck Call Room? They do a lot of preaching from back there. When they came out with that, what was that little saying that he came out with? Unafraid. That was something else.
And in a high-tech world, when mallard ducks see these decoys, they will be mesmerized, hypnotized, and paralyzed.
You are my best friend, and I love you dearly, and I'm going to be with you for the long haul until they put me in the ground.
Memory. Yeah, I do too, Krieger. It's a good podcast. Watch.
This is
Like I say, Unc does a lot of driving, and I do a lot of listening. In podcasts, I mean, I skip some of them. Just depends on what's up. Young and in there playing a video game. We was talking about that yesterday too, how things have changed, because it seems like that's all these kids want to do anymore is play video games. They don't have a life. Nobody goes outside anymore. Nobody goes to the woods hardly anymore.
You need.
What do y'all got planned for tomorrow?
We really didn't have any plans.
One little phone call. Hey, it's a piece of cake. Hey, look, we got a big surprise for you.
A surprise?
Hey, so long as it's chocolate, don't break out no vanilla.
I love surprises.
Got to spit on your hook. That's the secret.
Phil, hush. What are we going to do? It's our special day. What is that?
We're about 5 minutes into this, and Si starts to spill the beans.
I want to go out.
And I have to admit,
Well, I'm going to take you out. Look here, they got a good ice cream place that just opened up here.
I'm stunned that the man lasted that long.
Phil loves ice cream.
Tell him I don't do ice cream parties.
What are y'all doing? I can't talk to her and talk to y'all at the same time.
Say what?
Hey, I've got the whole thing under control, all right?
What'd
Yeah,
you say?
Cash,
If
but a
I
lot
hadn't
of
let
these
on
kids
to tell you that
don't,
there might be
man.
something going on.
One more time.
Back in my time, you wasn't allowed to stay in the house. You couldn't stay in air conditioner. You had to get your ass outside unless it was raining. And then if it was raining, you had to kind of be in your room or something out of the way. These kids these days, boy, they just, I don't know, man. It makes me feel lost for them, hopeless for them, because, like, you tell a kid right now, most kids, you say, hey, go get me a 9/16 wrench. They don't know what the hell that is.
Hey, the first thing she'd have thought was there was something going on.
Did you say something?
Hey, I've got her right where I want her.
Just tell him you're going to pick him up in the morning.
Okay? I'll pick you and Phil up in the morning.
What'd you say? In your regular voice.
Hey, I'll pick you up in the morning.
Okay.
Hey, that's perfect.
Now you're going to have to speak up. I can barely hear you.
Hey, bye.
What?
Hey, and wear a necklace.
Did you say?
All
right.
Necklace.
Oh, man.
Right.
That went swimmingly. If the ice cream thing doesn't work, just kidnap them, Si. Bring a weapon and some rope.
I bet it'd be a trip being that family. How long was Kay and Phil married for? Just out of curiosity, does anybody know? Let's look it up. I know it's a long time because I mean, hell, their kids are starting to turn into grandparents. Let me see. Just out of curiosity. Oh, you sapsucker. Why the hell was that so hard? Not since 1966. Jeez Louise, that's a long time. Sorry, I was trying to find something else to watch on here.
Make it your
59
ambition.
years.
The Apostle Paul to the Thessalonians. Make it your ambition. Make it your ambition, meaning this was your goal in life. To live a quiet life. Make it your ambition to live a quiet life. Mind your own business. Mind your own business. Work hard with your hands, doing something that's good, so that your life will win the respect of outsiders. And here's a key little phrase. So that you won't be dependent on anyone. What y'all saw this morning was a glimpse of a quiet life. If you go to the woods, it's quiet. This is where we come to every morning to leave. We go down that little cut right there. We go out in there and we'll flood about 200 acres of woods. All the blinds out there, we'll start when the water keeps going down. The water 10 days ago was up on top of that ridge right there, but we're draining it down. So we got the beavers on the run. Once a week, we pull down here, just like we are now. I'm gonna walk out there. I'm gonna crank both them motors. If they'll crank, they're not gonna crank if you don't come down here once a week, fire them up.
That's the truth. Oh, ethanol fuel, rough on stuff. Old Phil knew what was up.
Chattanooga. 32, 33, 34 feet. That right there will come up over 30 feet. I saw a big cottonmouth here yesterday. See that wire? That keeps the beavers from putting all that debris. See all this debris here? They pack that full, but if you put a wire there, they do it all on the front edge of it. Mayhaws.
Mayhaw jelly,
So they
baby.
give you a good jelly. You plant you a little orchard. The water sometimes comes up here. Some years, it'll be a foot deep here. We'll be getting our mayhaws with nets. But that bear turned that thing over. That's full of deer feed, minerals and all that. Well, that bear turned that thing over and he just ate the whole batch. Louisiana state flower. Pretty cool. Drain it out. Get a food regime that ducks like on it and deer. So we're within the confines what the Almighty does naturally or supernaturally, whichever way you want to look at it. That tree was here when Thomas Jefferson was president. I know it's 200, 250. I would say it was a little, might have been a smaller one, but it's been there a while. You know what, Martin?
I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Big
That
tree.
sounds like something he'd say,
Real
too.
big. There's about a 10-foot gator. It's been, we saw him the other day. Last year we saw him 2 or 3 times. He's wide, he's thick. Mid-August, we start singing the Canadian national anthem. You say, why? Thank the Canadians. That's where all them ducks coming from.
All he wanted to do was hunt, man. Nothing wrong with that.
Who's coming in the driveway?
You know, all the money all the money that Phil and him had, he could have bought a big super mansion. He could have had anything he wanted. But you see how he kept his notes, sticky notes? That's just a redneck, man. You can't take it out of him.
This was unheard of. So when I made excuse me, you say, So back when I said, this guy, come here a minute. She walked up, she looking at me. I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, I could teach school, but it tops out at about $35,000 a year. I said, I'm educated from Louisiana Tech University. I do have a master's degree, so I'm not dumb. But if I stay in the education field, tops out at $35,000, $40,000 a year if you're lucky. I said, we can beat it. She said, what are we going to do? I said, find me a place on the river, on the bank of the river. I said, we don't worry about if the water comes up under our house and floods in the yard. That's what we're looking for. So we don't care if it floods from time to time. I said, find me a place on the river. I'll fish the river. We'll survive. And I said, after about 4, 5, 6 years, I'll get this duck call right here. I didn't have but one of them. I just had one. And I said, the old original, I gave it to somebody somewhere down the line. But I just showed her the one duck call. I said, see that? She said, yeah. I said, I'll get those on the market because I'm not a good at that much stuff. But one thing about it is I can call a duck.
Oh, Chase looks just like him, don't he?
If you could get a shot of that. There's me. There's our duck blind, 20 feet up in a cypress tree. It was there that guy right on my left right there, he's gone on. He was converted. I converted him to Jesus 2 months before he fell dead. And that guy on the far hard right there on the right, Hook and Bull Thompson, in that blind, the one right next to me there is the one who said, Robertson, you got that duck call bill of yours. I've never seen anybody call ducks like that. He said, you need to put that on the market. He said, I even got the name for it. I said, what are we going to call it? And he said, call it the Duck Commander. So my duck hunting buddy told me that in the duck blind one day. Fast forward after that, about 10 or 12 years, I told Miss Kay to get the place on the river. I'd fish. And when the duck call came out, Big Al and my buddies, I came to Jesus, as far as I know. I don't know whether they did or not, but the format usually was get drunk, get high, get laid, whatever. Just heathens. I hid out down here best I could, fishing the river. I got away from them. They showed up one day after a year or two after my conversion. And they said, let's go up the road. I said, I'm not going anywhere with y'all anymore. I'm done with the getting drunk and all that stuff. I said, I'm done. I said, the one y'all looking for, the Phil Robertson, he died and was buried. This is the new one. I was telling them about my baptism, but they was like, you did what? So they thought I was a lunatic. They leave. Big Al calls me up 12 years later after my conversion, and I ran him off out there in the yard. He comes back after 12 years via a phone call. Hello. He says, Robertson? I said, yep. He said, need to talk to you. I said, okay, I'm on my way. He lived in Arkansas. I drove to Arkansas, and he was an atheist his whole life. And he said, guess what the doctor told me? I said, what's that? He said I had an aneurysm near my heart that could explode at any second. Aneurysm. An artery bloomed up like that. I said, you're an atheist, or you're having doubts about your predicament? He said, I want to know how you made such a dramatic change. I said, fair enough. So I told him that God loved him. He died on the cross for the sins of the world. You got any sins, Big Al? I said, you got a few I know of, having run with you before. Oh yeah, I've got plenty of sin, he said. I said, well, we all full of sin and we're all going to die. He said, I tell you what, take me down there and baptize me. And he said, I'm going to follow Jesus on my own and take my chances with him. I said, with him, you got a locked up deal, eternal life. I said, God will seal you with his spirit. That'll help you there, Big Al. So I baptized him. 2 months later, he fell dead on the third baseline, coaching baseball, big baseball coach. His family called me up and said, would you come do the funeral? I said, I noticed that everybody dresses pretty spiffy. I don't have a suit. So I don't know whether I need to be doing a funeral or not. I don't own a suit. They said, go get one, I guess. And they said, just come as you are. He requested that you come to his funeral. So I was able to tell a packed house that Big Al made it, cut it pretty thin, but he made it about 2 months. Most of them stopped there, but we went on and made a call that sounded like a gadwall. Gadwall, Woody. So we got wood duck. We added that to it. You say, why? Nobody ever done it. No gadwall call. No wood duck call. Till I come along. You say, did many people copy that? Boy, did they copy it. I didn't say nothing. There's a mallard drake. No one ever had of that. Mallard drake, because we didn't have one of them. So I put all these together and expanded the duck call world a little bit. First year sales, $8,000. Gross sales, $8,000. I said, Miss Kay, we're on a roll. She said, we're going to starve to death. I was driving around to Walmart after Walmart.
See, now when I hear
Walmart,
something like that, right?
Up into Arkansas, over into
Miss Kay looking for immediate satisfaction. Oh man, no, it took just steady growth. When you hear somebody speak of something like that, that hits home, right? When you're trying your hardest and people, they just want immediate results. That's the problem with today's society with these video games. Exactly what I was saying earlier. The kids get on here playing these video games, they push a button, they get an immediate result. They don't know what it's like to set a goal and actually work towards it. I hope I'm wrong, but what I'm seeing doesn't say that.
the Texas, Mississippi, me a big loop. So I finally got 6 of them in a Walmart. And I thought,
hey, Brandy, Blue Eyes.
The next Walmart I drove to, I just showed them what that guy had said. I said, down there, I said, other Walmart, everybody's stocking these cars, you know, this is the hottest thing is, man. I said, so, you know, how many you need? He said, he's off the street. I said, Colonel Sanders started with 1 chicken. Somebody ate it and said, Colonel, that's good chicken there. I said, he had to start somewhere. I said, I need a few duck calls in Walmart. Y'all got a lot of traffic. Well, I started giving, they'd started ordering 6 and 12 at a time. And I kept them going. Finally, the phone rang one day. Some guy said, are you Mr. Robertson? Oh, yeah. He said, the one that builds the duck calls? I said, you got it. He said, I'm trying to figure out how you're getting your product in the Walmart chain without going through me. I said, well, who are you? He said, I'm the buyer. I said, so I'm supposed to go through you? He said, I said, I had never heard of you. I said, I just figured we'd put in a few around, you know. He said, you know, I looked at your numbers. You're doing pretty good. I said, I had to start somewhere there. He said, come to see me. So I drove to Bentonville, and Walmart made us a national product. And we looked up, that's the TV show, Duck Dynasty. While the process is going on and we're barely making, you know, $7,000 to $8,000 the first year, 13, you're like, times are pretty hard. Well, we'd have to borrow some, you know, the bank and whatever, you know, we got to pay this back and all that. So we got these bills, and you're talking about living by faith. I mean, that was us. We just waited. I said, well, we're being blessed here. Kay said, well, we've got that bank note. I said, how much is it? She said, $600. I said, whew, when's that due? She said, this month, the end of this month. So I had all these hook nets, trot lines. I'm trying everything, but I'm not quite making it. So it got down to the last day, and I got to go meet with the banker to try to persuade him to cut me a little slack on the $600. Interest, whatever, you pay it, and then you keep going. But anyway, I told Miss Kay, I said, how many more days we have? She said, tomorrow's the last day. I said, well, we'll pray about it and see what happens. So the next day, I said, here's what you do. Let's go check the mailbox before I go up there and meet with the banker. Let's go down there and look at the mail. And maybe we got a duck call order or whatever. She said, you're not going to get $600 at the mailbox? I said, well, let's check it. So we walked down there. She goes with me. We walked down there at that mailbox. I opened it up, and I'm thumbing through the mail, and I get an envelope. It says, the Bank of Tokyo. Some other Japanese town, but this was from the Bank of Tokyo. And I thought, I looked up in the sun like that. I said, Miss Kay, it's a check. I said, I can see it. It's a check. She said, are you kidding? I said, let me see here. I opened it up. We want order. We're paying in advance $610 for these duck calls. Send us the $600 worth of duck calls. And I'm like, go up and give that to the bank. I said, you got $10 to spare there. True story. I was stunned. She cried. She said, can you believe that? I said, hey, the Lord works in mysterious ways is all I can say.
Ain't that the truth?
You can see a line there all the way up to right there. That's about 20, but it gets way up there. That's the result of the Corps of Engineers damming up the Washita River. When they dammed it up, they raised it up at their dam 16 foot higher than it used to be. So much so that streams that usually were just dry creek beds like this, they put 16 feet of water, more water down here, about 10, 12 miles on the river. So this ended up being the pool stage. The point being, it doesn't take near as much water to flood all of this as it used to, because it's already got a 16-foot jump on it. So when that water hits that big dump down there, here it goes. So from 21.2, the highest it's ever risen was in 91, I think, and it raised up 51.5. So they just stair-stepped the water to bring it up for barge traffic. So we're
crazy.
here, right in the middle of all of it.
Hey, and as we speak right now,
see these
Pops is picking his house up right now because it's getting flooded out, and he won't let you help him. I tried. Now he did let us help pour the concrete the other day for the footers, but he won't let you help him. He just wants to do things his own way, and he ain't gonna let nobody deter
these
it.
books. These books all have dates on them. I don't have them in order, but I can just tell you, that was 2019, 2020. This one, 648 ducks. 1998, 98, 99. Well, lo and behold, Martin, listen to this. 1,200. 98, 99. Pretty good year that year. So I've got charts. This is kind of like it's a tendency chart.
Yeah, man.
You pick it up. November the 13th, 1998. That's 2022. You're like,
pretty good a while ago, 14 years. November 13th, opening day of duck season. Water spreading. Rain in the last 3 days. 10 inches, something about that of water just above middle road. The water's rising and it's raining. First day of duck season, 12 woodies, 8 teal, 4 gadwall, 2 mallard, and 1 shoveler. 27. That's what we got. Next day, Sunday morning before church, 4 mallards, 3 gadwall, 2 woodies, 1 widgeon, and look out, 18 teal. I look and I write down.
He keeping a ledger. What do you got
You're
going
not
on?
ready for it.
The weather, the wind direction. Did we pump the water? Is it a dry year? Is it a wet year? Well, I put all those factors together. That's 1998, 99. There's 2019. There's 2008, 94, 95. These date back to the 80s. So if you just add all these together and you wrote down, was it a cloudy day or a clear day? Cloudy. I write down cloudy. Well, you look at all these charts and you say, add up all the cloudy days and see how many you got. And then add up all your clear days and see how many you got. Which is better, cloudy for ducks or clear? Well, you'll notice clear days are way better. Clear days are better. Clear days are better. Clear day. Wind direction. You say, what's the best wind direction from all your charts? Northwest. Northwest wind, you do better. They'll work better. Pretty amazing. You know what I'm saying?
So you can probably see wind condition, weather condition, and take a pretty good guess on what you're going to do.
That's right. Just keep life simple. Do what's right. God has given us this great planet to live on. We go around saying we got to save the planet, save the planet. Hebrews chapter 1 says he's going to do away with this. And we're going to be looking at another heaven and another earth, the home of righteousness. Peter said that, 2 Peter chapter 3, for you Bible buffs. But I keep life simple. I stay in the woods as much as I can, back and forth. We eat well. We love God and we love our neighbor. For the life of me, I cannot believe more people would not get on board with that. So that's just a few words from the riverbank down here in North Louisiana.
That's it, man. That's the way it should be. Just keep everything simple. The simpler you keep it, the better off you are. Less stressed out you are, too. I mean, everybody likes nice stuff and all that, you know, but you just keep life simple. The best way to be. If it's meant for you to have it, it'll work its way into your life. I've learned that over the years. Oh, yeah, Blue Eyes. Watching them, I mean, so over the weekend, I seen, it probably won't matter to most of y'all, but sea turtle. And seeing when I see nature like that, it just does something to me. I just kind of smile, you know, just watching them swim. One of them things. You gotta appreciate stuff like that. Most of these kids these days, they don't care about nothing like that because they think it don't affect them. But in reality, it does. Without the ocean, there is no life.
What I saw was Phil, who had never drank before, started drinking.
I was on my way to being a bone to be chewed, as they
Hey,
say.
Nada.
I met a couple guys, and I just thought, maybe I should just experience what the world has to offer.
I found this person's name in her purse, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
why is this
Nada.
here?
That's what it's about.
My dad, that I thought was my dad all my life, was not really dead.
I just started to get real cynical. It eventually led to thoughts of suicide, stuff like that.
I got in a big barroom brawl, ran Miss Kay and the kids off, and I ain't taking another drink.
All of a sudden it came to me that I've been fighting for this marriage for a long time, and it's not working. I just want to go to sleep and never wake up.
The worst part of your wife cheating on you is that you think you're going crazy.
I pretty much did anything that was put in front of me. Where's the drugs? Where's the alcohol? Let's just keep going. The battle was just...
My dad told me, he said, that's the most selfish thing that you can do, is leave this world because you can't take it.
I always had this sense of maybe something's different about me, so I called my mom and said, so who's my dad?
I began to contemplate, is there a way out of all this?
The chaos of our family starts in the chaos of the 70s. As a college quarterback in Louisiana finds himself in a lifestyle of being drunk and lawless. This is our father, Phil Robertson, and this is the beginning of our journey from dysfunction to dynasty.
I am second. That's what it was.
We all go 6 feet deep in the ground. I think now they're digging them 4.5 feet to save money. But we all end up in a casket. And people wipe their eyes. Because we're gone. It's called fact.
Western Road.
You saw where I grew up. The time period would have been in the 1950s, but if you saw it, you would have thought it was 1850. Log house, milk cow, plow horse, no bathtub, no commode. Like Coca-Cola's, none of that. No. I never heard anyone say we were poor. Not once. No one ever said, man, we are really up against it here. I wonder why somebody doesn't bail us out. No. I ran up on Miss Kay when she was 14. There's an old saying in the South, if you marry them when they're about 15 or 16, they'll pick your ducks. If you wait till they get to be 20, they'll pick your pocket. So Miss Kay and I married early.
They'll pick your ducks. Well, I know they tried to give him hell about saying that. You know, it's just like the devil, though. They tried to make a big to-do over him saying that about age. But back in them times, I mean, people got married. I mean, hell, look in the old West. Some of them girls married 12, 13 years old. This is the way times was back then. But life expectancy, you didn't live that long. So, I mean, it kind of goes with it.
Bill started school and we were so poor. So in love, but so poor. baby on the way. Actually, Allan was born, I was 17 years old, and Phil was 18 years old. So we were basically two kids with a kid. But you have to grow up, and you do. That's what you do.
Now, when I got to college, I was on my way to being a bone to beat.
Phil, and this really came when he started spending a lot of time with the football team.
Parties in college, you know. It was the 60s. Y'all remember the 60s, don't you?
What I saw was Phil, who had never drank before, started drinking. And what happened with me was it was scary to me. Jason was born. So thrilled about another boy. Phil was happier than ever. Unfortunately, the drinking got worse. He would be mad and just be in and out.
Hey, let me ask y'all something in chat. How many of you prefer to be cremated versus buried? If you would rather be cremated, put a 1 in chat. If you would rather be buried, put a 2 in chat. Me, myself, I don't believe in being burned. I don't know why I feel that way. But like I've told all them, hey, you can put me in a cardboard box as far as I'm concerned. Just don't burn my body. I don't know why I feel that way. Because I know some beliefs, you know, like some of the old, what's the name of them people? Anyways, I know they, like the Vikings, they used to put them on rafts and set them on fire and push them out to sea. But I don't know.
Like a flash. And I knew them, but I didn't want to believe it, was running around on me. Probably was smoking dope, other things, pills.
It's a lot cheaper to be cremated.
It was all new to me, the whole thing.
I owned a beer joint when some guy came in with a Bible and he wanted to introduce me to Jesus.
Yeah, blue eyes.
I'd take another drink.
Then we
me too,
had our new baby, Willie Jess. So there I was, a barmaid who doesn't drink and had 3 little boys. I've been fighting for this marriage for a long time, and it's not working. But what went on next was horrible. It was like the nightmare of my life.
I got in a big bar room brawl. The laws got after me. I went to the woods, of course, and hid out.
Phil came to me and said, I probably won't surface for 2 or 3 months. Do the best you can with what's left here. And he was gone. He became more and more mean and mean-spirited. And what I would tell my boys all the time is, that's not your daddy. That's the devil in your daddy.
I would say the low point is when I ran McKay and the kids off. You're all alone, no hope, miserable. That's when I began to seriously contemplate, is there a way out of all this? So I came to Miss Kay and she said, you know the guy that came up there to the beer joint that time and wanted to talk with you? I said, yeah. And you ran him off? I said, yeah. Why don't you sit down with him and just see what he has to say? So I sat down with this guy. He said, Phil, what do you think the gospel is? And I said, I don't know, gospel music on the radio or something like that. He said, you don't even know what it is. I said, I don't guess I do. I didn't even know what the gospel of Jesus was. So when he went through Jesus coming down in flesh through a little virgin girl, Mary, dying on a cross, being buried and raised from the dead, I'm like, how in the world did I ever miss that?
What's up, Mark? Cricker, I don't know. I don't
I
really
missed
watch TV.
I was blown away when I heard that Jesus died for me, was buried and raised from the dead. Something so, it is simple but profound that happened back there almost 2,000 years ago. I had never heard it.
When we came back home, I think there was a note that said they had gone to the church building. So we headed in there. And when we got into the auditorium, I just stopped because there he was up in the baptistry with a man. And the boys all stopped and they were on each side of me. And I remember just looking at them. And I heard Phil say, I want to make Jesus the Lord of my life. I want to follow him from this day forward. And I looked down at each one of the boys, tears were rolling down their eyes. Even 3.5-year-old Willie Jess, big tears were coming down. And the next thing I knew, he was baptized. And I come up and the boys started hollering and singing, jumping all over the place. And they said, my daddy saved, my daddy saved, my daddy saved. They were so happy. And it was the complete family then.
And I'm turning from my sinful past, and I am fixing to make a valiant attempt to be good. I said, I've never tried it before. I told the guy when he studied with me, he said, just love God and love your neighbor and try to be good. I'm like, I've never tried that before. He said, can you try? I said, I can try. See, you got rednecks, then you have river rats. So I'm reading over in Romans chapter 12, be good to your enemies, pray for those who persecute you, do not return evil for evil. River rats tend to be far better thieves than your just local rednecks.
June 1st.
You be good to them and don't return evil for evil. I was fishing for a living. It's my livelihood. I'm working my tail off. They're hungry. Feed them. These river rats would steal my fish. And I've caught several of them before then. Usually I just come up, roar out there, come up with my shotgun and say, the next person who moves dies. They're stealing my fish here, Lord. They're hungry, feed it. And you want me to do what? Do not return evil for evil. Well, I have to see if that will work, but it makes no earthly sense, that's for sure. So one day I heard a motor slow down. These guys pull over to my float, and I'm watching them through the bushes. So I said, I'm going to be good to them, but I'm carrying my gun just in case. They're not good to me. And I'm going to do what the Lord said. I'm going to be good to them. So I roar up on them, and they're getting my net almost up in their boat, and they look up and they see this guy coming. They beat me wide open. I said, what were you boys doing with that net? And they said, oh, is that what that was? I said, yeah, that'd be a hook net. It belongs to me. I said, here's the good news. I'm going to raise the net, and whatever's in there, I'm going to give them to you. And when I said that, they looked at each other and they said, they left me looking back. And all of a sudden, up and down the river, they quit stealing my fish. I just gave them what they were trying to steal. I took that to mean God was right all along. The first year in Duck Commander, $8,000. I said, Miss Kay, we are rolling. She said, we are going to starve to death. I said, no, we're not going to starve. We'll be all right. This is Alan, Jason, Willie, and Jeff. They all run the company and their wives. So one of them told me the other day, he said, Dad, you remember when you started out with that $8,000 worth of duck calls? I said, yep. They said, this year we're going to sell close to 1 million duck calls.
Dang, yeah.
It was either dog luck, but I am giving the credit for the duck call sales, the fish that were in the nets way back for my life. I'm giving the credit to the how it turns out. I feel pretty good about it. My name is Phil Robertson, and I am second.
That's right.
See, in the South, we don't say second. We say second.
Second.
Like it's a T on it. Second. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Phil, man. What y'all think about that? Jesus Christ. Get rid
What
of
if your smile could go from looking like this to this?
Nuvia's 24-hour process is really...
If you've heard our father's story, now experience it through the eyes of our mother, who had to question on a daily basis, is this marriage worth fighting for? This is our mother, Kay Robertson, and this is the beginning of our journey from dysfunction to dynasty.
We're in the world.
We'll speed it up a little bit.
Enough about me to come to my dad's funeral. From that point, when I saw him that day, it was like we were history, together ever since. I think in a lot of ways, he just took my dad's place as my protector.
That's what's up, man.
My man, my pioneer man. Well, my grandmother and I were so close, but she's from a way different generation. You know, when Phil and I were probably doing things we shouldn't, touching and things like that, I thought, well, I don't want to talk to her because my grandmother never talks about sex. She never, it was kind of a taboo word. What happened was I became pregnant. So we did take off and get married. And the first year was a real struggle. I'd never been poor. Phil had been poor all his life. So it wasn't anything new to him. It was different to me. We learned how to live off fish, ducks, deer, squirrel, all the things that he killed. And then I tried to cook it. That was my process of learning how to cook. I started seeing the change in Phil. Phil, who had never drank before, started drinking. Allan was born, I was 17 years old, and Phil was 18 years old. And we were kind of like two kids with a kid. I kind of feel sorry for Allan because, bless his heart, I know he'd have probably liked to have a real mom and dad, but he had I was happier than ever. Unfortunately, the drinking got worse. He was mean-spirited. He ran around on me. I feel I have another boy. He's going to slow the party and drinking down. It's going to get better. Nope. What I would tell my boys all the time is, that's not your daddy. That's the devil in your daddy. I was worn out. I picked the boys up. I came home, and he was drunk on the couch. He said, "Why are you so late?" And I said, "The car broke down, blah, blah, blah." I was telling him all that. He said, "I know why you were late. You're having an affair." And of course, I started laughing because I said, when would I have time to do that? I work, I drive back and forth, I cook, I do laundry, I take care of the house. And I just never would do that because it's not right. I wasn't raised like that, and I wouldn't do that. So that night was when I hit my lowest point in my whole life. Because all of a sudden it came to me that I've been fighting for this marriage for a long time, and it's not working. I went in my bathroom, and I started crying and crying, and I seriously thought, I just want to die. I really did. I just wanted peace, and that was the only way I could think of it. I wish I could just take pills and just go to sleep and never wake up. I heard the pitter-patter of little house shoes on the floor. I will never forget that sound as long as I live. And Allan said, Mama, please don't cry. Don't cry, it's going to be all right. And his next words said, God is going to take care of us. And I said, what? And he said, God's going to take care of us. All of a sudden, it's like a light went off, and I said, wait a minute. Who's going to take care of these three little boys? A drunk sitting on the couch or me? I'm all my God. I just got on my knees and I prayed. I said, God, please help me find some peace. Please help me find some hope. And please help me save my marriage. That's what I said. I lined up coming to talk to a preacher, and he shared the gospel of Jesus Christ, that he came to earth for me, that he died on the cross for me, he was buried for me, that he didn't stay buried. He went back to show me that I'll be able to go back after death. And I repented of my sins, and then I was baptized. It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And the neatest thing, though, that man told me that day was this. He said, you are going to have help. You'll have the Holy Spirit living in you. You have Jesus Christ in you. It's an anchor that'll never leave you. But when you go home, your husband's still going to be controlled by the devil. You are still going to have him call you names, be mean to you, go out and get drunk. It's not going to change just because of what happened to you today. You got to understand that. But you keep praying for him, just love him, and it's going to happen. What happened one day was the shock of the world. When I came home in my little Volkswagen, and he said to me, I am sick of you. Well, I just can't stand your holy roller life. Everybody's reading their Bibles and their Bible story books and all that. It's just, you're just running my life. That's what he said. And I said, well, I'm sorry we run your life, but this is our life now, and we're not changing. And he said, well, what I've decided is I want you to just get out of my life. I said, so this is what you're saying, you're kicking us out? Yeah. I want you and the three boys to leave. And that's it. I just can't take it anymore. I mean, go live with your church friends. You like them the best anyways. So just go on. I can't take this anymore. So I said, okay, I want it noted. I didn't leave you. You kicked us out. And I was thinking to myself, I'll have to tell my grandma in heaven that I tried to find this guy out. He just kicked us out. The boys say, I miss Dad. And I say, I miss him too, but maybe us being away will make him think about what's wrong with his life. And maybe he'll find a need for God. So we would pray for him every day. One day at work, we came back from our lunch, and there was the old gray truck sitting in the parking lot of where I work. Oh no, Phil's here. Well, his head was leaned over his steering wheel. So when I came over to the truck, I opened the door, and when he looked at me, it was not like anything I've ever thought would happen. He had big tears coming down his eyes, and he said, I can't eat, I can't sleep, I want my family back. Of course, my heart just started beating, and I thought, oh my.
Is it still buffering? All them kids done got here. Every one of them's phone done went straight to the internet. Oh man, Yeah, no, Miss K is from a different area, man. I call them people barn raisers. I know y'all probably heard me say it before. Back in that area, it didn't matter if you liked your neighbor or not. If they had something that was troubling the whole family, people would step in and help them. Hence, like raising barns. You know, one farmer ain't build that big barn by itself. The whole community come together and do that. And that's the key that we miss today in this world, is everybody trying to really help one another. Instead, now everybody will try to hold somebody else's head under water just so they can financially gain from it. It's sad too.
Man, this is just what I want right here. This is what I prayed for. And I said, I know who can help you. He said, who? You're going to say God? And I said, the only one who can help you. He said, well, I don't know how to find him. And I said, well, I do. I went in and I called the guy who I had talked to. I told him the situation. He said, Kay, let me check my calendar. And I will never forget what I said to an elderly gentleman at my church. I said, check your calendar. I said, what's more important than one lost soul? And he said, you're right. You are exactly right, Kay. There's nothing more important. He said, I'll be at your apartment, me and my wife, at 5:30. I said, okay, I'll see you there.
He said, Phil, what do you think the gospel is? And I said, I don't know, gospel music on the radio or something like that. I was blown away when I heard that Jesus died for me, was buried and raised from the dead. Something so, it is simple but profound, that happened back there almost 2,000 years ago. I had never heard it. I came out thinking,
nah,
I'm
Blue
going
Eyes,
to
they
be
don't.
wide open for good and for God and for my neighbor as I was for the evil one and living this sinful lifestyle. I said, I'm fixing to hang another gear and I'm turning from my sinful past and I am fixing to make a valiant attempt to be good. I said, I've never tried it before. I told the guy when he studied with me, he said, just love God, love your neighbor, and try to be good. I'm like, I've never tried that before.
We became family
What's up,
again.
T-Dam?
And the boys were so thrilled. Oh, Mom, what if the devil's really going to leave Dad this time? And what if he's going to be different? What if he's going to go to church with us and be nice again? And I told him, I said, well, we prayed enough for it. I think God's answering this prayer. There he was up in the baptistry. I heard Phil say, I want to make Jesus the Lord of my life. I want to follow him from this day forward. And the next thing I knew, he was baptized. And I come up and the boys started hollering and singing, jumping all over the place. And they said, my daddy,
You can have one.
my
in
daddy
the way.
saved, my daddy saved, my daddy saved. They were so happy.
What's up, Yankees?
Those
Good to
years
see you.
of growing, they were not always easy because that kind of behavior that you have before, it always follows you through. It takes a lot of time to learn the fruits of the Spirit and to learn the ways to be gentle and kind and faithful and, you know, all those things that come along with growing as a Christian. But we did that. And more importantly, I looked up to heaven and told my grandma, I said, well, I did fight for my marriage. And guess what? I still have it. My name is Miss Kay, and I am second.
I hate that for you, Blue Eyes. There's been a lot of that over the years. Mama didn't know I was alive. She just wanted to know the dryer was bothering me. Like, no, that's right.
Guys, you ready? Okay. Is there a phrase that your spouse often uses in the wrong context?
That's a good
What's up,
question.
Dave?
She's like the old Norm Crosby, who made a living as a comedian butchering the English language. Miss Kay will butcher the English language quickly. My leg, I mean, they said, they did an autopsy on my leg. And I said, what? They said, an autopsy on my leg, but they're going to treat it with nitroglycerin. I think it's going to be all right. I said, so your leg has died, and now they're going to blow it off your body. I said, Miss Kay, you're mispronouncing words. It is funny.
He teases me about every
This
day.
woman will butcher the English language in a heartbeat.
Well, it's funny.
From the 70s to today, they went from fighting each other to fighting for each other and learning to be happy, 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 as Phil says. This is Straight Talk from Phil and Kay Robertson and the continuation of our journey.
Well, Blue
from
Eyes, I'll
dysfunction
tell you.
to dynasty.
I'll tell you, just from my perspective, because, Unc wasn't never no angel. I was on that stuff for years and years and years. And I started out thinking that I'd just take a little bit here and there, make you work longer, harder. I made more money with it. And that's what I told myself. And when people start getting mean and all that, it ain't you. It's them fighting their own demons. You just happen to be witnessing it. And I hate that you went through that, because nobody deserves to go through things like that. That's for sure. You have to get to a point where you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you got to want it for yourself. You can't will somebody to get sober, and worst part about it for me is I come from a dysfunctional family. My mom was alcoholic. I seen what it did firsthand, and I still went down that road. Sometimes you just got to learn from the things that you do,
What's one little small thing that you do that can annoy each other?
Oh,
Annoys each other?
Yes, sir.
I'll go first.
Miss Kay doesn't get on my nerves.
Well,
I've learned to live with you. You don't get on my nerves.
Well, you don't get on my nerves except when he turns the TV too loud.
One of the things that Phil said a long time ago, like really when the show was first coming out, that made me kind of look at things a little different was every woman, and he was meaning everybody, but he was talking about Miss Kay, but every got their quirks. It's whether or not if you can deal with them or not. And I kind of find it ironic because, everybody's partner does something that just kind of irks you to the soul. Yeah, I found it kind of intriguing, or neat, I guess I should say. Not intriguing. Y'all know the word I'm looking for.
Right?
Yeah.
And he won't even let me talk on the phone.
Well, she was beautiful back then, wasn't she?
Miss Kay claims the first time she ever laid her eyes on me, it was at the high school where we attended. I was 1 year ahead of her. I come around the curve there in the hallway. My cousin, my third cousin, was with me, old Ronnie Festivan.
And he had a crew cut, and I knew he was he's a quarterback. I knew that. But that look, and he was laughing. And I just looked at him, and I thought, that's the one I want right there. That's it.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all have to remember, I've been running with this thing since she was about 14 years old.
Yeah.
14. Now we're in our 70s. Used to was sex. We got to have sex out. And we got all fired up. But then you get in your 70s and you say, what about it, honey? You say, well, let's just go popcorn tonight.
And A&W.
So you eat popcorn
and
and you say,
A&W root beers.
and A&W root beer. Sex is not over
What's that?
when you get in your 70s. It's just not like a, what would you say, Ms. K, a priority.
No, being best friends is the best.
There you go.
Amen
We
to
just
that.
talk. I think when you're best friends, that's what you do. That's the one you want to tell stuff to.
Yep.
Don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you get those mugs and just put them in the freezer and put that root beer, oh, it's so good, isn't it?
It is.
With the popcorn. I tell the women now that I talk to all the time.
How much should good car insurance cost you a month? $80? $120?
Hell, it's not for a commercial, huh?
You've got to use your sense of humor too. If you don't have one, go to Walmart and get one, because you can't make a marriage work without a sense of humor. As far as we're
I love
concerned.
picking at them.
I mean, there's so many times when we started off and we're getting mad, and then I might say something funny, and then Phil starts laughing. Well, you say you've killed the mad. I mean, it's just gone. And we've done that so many times, and we try to teach other people how to do that. Think about something. Is it that important to have a big knockdown drag out?
Nope.
Or you can think of something funny and then everybody laughs and you're all over it. We've done that years in a row.
Yep.
Haven't we?
Good advice, Miss K. Well, you live and learn. You can't try to convince people they need to behave if you and your woman are doing the very thing that you're telling them they shouldn't do. Therefore, when you stand on the gospel, you stand up for Jesus, you tend to stand out among the world's population. So we don't have any mischievous behavior going on down there around the Robertson household. Before I came to Jesus, so now
Amen to that.
I have put into practice love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So once those things, the qualities, the fruit of the Spirit are seen by your neighbors and the people you meet.
And your kids.
And your kids, when they see that, they're like, let's see, when they should be mad, they're not. When there could be war, there's peace. If instead of out of control, they exercise self-control. And now I'm in my 70s. I get it now. Love God, love your neighbor. And here we are with the woman I've been running with since she was 15, 14.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a good woman. I'm glad I run up on you.
I'm glad I had a lot of patience. My grandmother taught me that. When I was a little girl, I stayed with my grandmother because we had a grocery store, and we would sit in the swing, and my grandmother would be shelling peas or shucking corn. And she told me one thing that I'll never forget. You're only going to marry one time, and you don't even pretend like you know about the word divorce because you're with him. So you better choose wisely, is what she told me. And she said, because you'll have to fight for your marriage. And I was like, what would I have to fight for? She said, because Satan's going to come after it, just like he does everything. And she said, but you have to fight, and you have to say to him, nope, I vowed to God to take him forever, and I will. And that's exactly what happened. And Satan did come in. Within a year of us being together, he made his presence known. And that, 10 years, he was a jerk. But now he's the most godly man, and he's gentle. And people don't even know how good he is because he only shows me his best character. The real gentleness that he has.
I'm gonna love you all my life. I'm gonna love you all my life. The world may rearrange, and the colors they may change. Oh,
I tell him I love him every day, don't I?
Yeah, when she gets in the bed, I go at 10 o'clock. She rolls in there
I
about
love your sadness.
12:31, but she reaches over there, she finds my hand, and she squeezes my hand.
And you squeeze it back.
And I squeeze her back. And then
Right. And it's under a pillow. Because
every night.
Yep. I think that's really cute too that he thought of that. I thought of it and he joined me.
I'm gonna love you all my life.
The problem was I didn't really have any answers for all the voices.
I said, if I tell you this, you're going to divorce me. And he said, if you're not honest with me, I'm going to divorce you anyway.
I'd finally hit rock bottom. And I wrote a letter and I was going to do it. I really was. My heart just starts beating out of my chest. My dad said, "Son, are you ready to change?"
You know, these are things that happen in everybody's family. Their problems ain't no more special than anybody else's, but it's how you deal with it. You know, I've often said to my kids, because you don't want them running around just having sex with anybody, right? So I try to guide them. Like, I tell them, you can't help who you're attracted to, but you can damn sure help how you react to it. Don't just give yourself away. You know what I mean? That's a thing special. And when you do things like that, it should be. But no matter what problems you're having, I mean, you know, we all go through things. It's how you deal with it who makes you who you are.
Did you know that you could be generating 10 grand a month or more by simply teaching other people what you already know, extract that into an
Just like my parents before me, a low point was hit where my wife and I had to question, is our marriage over? I'm Al Robertson, the firstborn son. This is my wife, Lisa, and this is our chapter and our journey from dysfunction to dynasty.
We're in the wild now.
So the worst part of your wife cheating on you is that you think you're going crazy. There's something inside you that you know is not right, but you can't figure it out. First thing you notice are the gaps of time. You know, where were you? I was literally going insane. But then I found this person's name in her purse, and I'm just like, I mean, why is this here? Then I just broke. I just thought, well, you know what? You're judgmental. You're the problem. You're making these accusations against your wife. I mean, obviously, if she were doing this, she would have told us. She would have told the truth. Another voice says, how can you preach and teach when you've got this going on in your own house? So then it became my problem. Just this constant trial that's going on inside my head. And sometimes you're the prosecutor, sometimes you're the defender. It was 14 months of this. It keeps coming back to there's no truth. And so I didn't really have any answers for all the voices. I had a friend that worked for the cell phone place. And so we dug into the phone records.
Because they'll damn sure try to use it against you.
Now I know. Because I tracked the numbers. Sure enough, the same guy that was in the purse all those months ago, here's his number. I have truth. We were at our popular hangout here in West Monroe, which was McDonald's back in the day.
One day I'll see this really, really, really cute guy. Since I knew everybody, I knew he had to be new.
I come over to her car, and it's the first time I noticed her, and I was like, whoa, this girl. In redneck language, whoa means you filled out. I leaned into the window and started a conversation that eventually led to a date.
As a child, I had a lot of things going on in my life. And, you know, I thought, this is fresh and new. He doesn't know anything about it. And this is my knight in shining armor.
We went to a football game, so it was a Friday night. The whole time I'm just like silent, you know, and so she's feeling that radiating from me, and she knew something was different.
So we get back home, we put our girls to bed, and then bam, he says, I know what's happening, I know what's going on, and I need you to tell me about it.
This starts at 9 or 10 at night. So we're 2 or 3 a.m. and I'm still just like, truth. And so she starts to break, and she's like, if I tell you the truth, you'll leave me, that we'll be over. And so finally she said it. Yes, I've been having an affair. And so then after that, my initial moment when she said the words, and this sounds crazy to me now, it was relief. And now it's like, okay, I don't want you here. I don't want you in this house. I want you still in the kid's life. I'm not making any hard decisions about anything tonight, but I just know I don't want you here. And so she left.
And she went to his house.
I just say, I am not doing anything. I mean, what are you talking about? He proceeds to tell me, I have the phone records and I need you to be honest and tell me. I had not been honest for a very long time, since I was a young child. And for me to be totally honest was to give up a part of myself, because I was admitting that I was not who everybody thought I was. I said, if I tell you this, you're not ever going to want to have anything to do with me. You're going to ask me to leave. You're going to divorce me. And so I said, it's all true. It's probably a lot worse than what you think. And so he said, okay, that's it. I need you to leave. I was just like, I know God's been prodding me to tell the truth. Why would he prod me to tell the truth if I'm losing everything? I realized at that point that I had no relationship with God, that I did not know who God was.
A storm rages, knocking out power to thousands. This is when electrical...
I don't know about all that.
Allan would have anything to do with me. He wouldn't talk to me.
Can I forgive her? Is it even possible? At first, I didn't even want to think about it.
I was working at Duck Commander for the Robertson family. And of course, at that point, I'm fired. I don't have a job anymore.
You have people speaking in each ear.
The Robertsons did not want Allan to reconcile with me. They did not feel as though I could change.
In one ear, some people are saying, you guys made a mistake. There was too much baggage.
Allan was the golden boy, and I had hurt him tremendously.
In the other ear, here's a couple that went through. Why don't you talk to them? And I wasn't really interested. I would see what happens when a couple says, I forgive you, and didn't really mean it. All that was a precursor to the next time there was a problem, it just turns into a disaster.
I started going to a counselor.
Then I got to this crossroads.
And I was able to be honest.
Okay.
T-Damn, that's their problem. They gonna have to deal with that, you know. Yeah, that's about it, Blue Eyes. It just goes to show, like, it. To see him, I don't know, man. I hate to even talk about it. Because I didn't see it. But then again, I don't watch gospel like that anymore. You know? It's not worth it. He has nothing of value to offer anybody. Period. And to me, it's just a waste of time. They can hold hands over there and kumbaya all they want to. The fact is what they've done to their own image online, they're never going to be able to straighten out. And with making an appearance over there, that just shows it even more. Like, why? Why would you do that?
If I say the words, how do I really mean it?
What I finally realized is whenever I married Allan, I would have done anything to marry him. And he pretty much became my God whenever I married him.
So I had a very deep conversation with the Almighty.
At this point, I dethroned him and I put the real Lord of my life in the position that he needed to be.
I said, will you reveal to me any inkling of any untruth? If she's ever going down this road again, will you reveal it to me? If you can assure me that that will happen, I feel like I can extend forgiveness and mean it.
Finally, for the first time in my life, Jesus Christ was the Lord of my life. I was now an honest person, and I had not ever been honest before.
And then I told her the words. I said the words. I said, I forgive you and I love you. And want to spend the rest of our lives doing what we missed out on. And of course, she said, I'm so sorry for what I put you through. And I said, well, I know. That's why it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a hard one, but we can do this.
There was a time in my life that I didn't even know that I would have daughters and granddaughters. I never could have seen myself as a wife, as a mother, as a grandmother. Our lives are just so different because we chose to fight through our marriage and to fight for our marriage.
Our relationship with Jesus Christ has helped us realize that through doubt, through fear, through worry, through pain, through difficulty, through brokenness, that you can be renewed.
Even in our bad marriage, all things are possible through Jesus Christ.
My name is Al Robertson.
My name is Lisa Robertson.
And I am second.
And I am second.
You find yourself needing the help of someone else when you're stuck in a rut. But when one of our own was trapped in drugs and deception, they needed a family. This is my brother Jeb, and this is his chapter in our journey from dysfunction to dynasty.
We're in the wild now. We're in the wild.
How do you make the duck sound good?
You gotta have air pressure. You get a lot of pressure behind your tongue.
Like a kazoo? Like a kazoo?
Not so much kazoo. Ready? Dad always told us, a man should be able to provide for his family. And that includes food and everything else because he always told us at one point there was no such thing as a grocery store. Totally got picked on a ton by my brothers. We'd go out. We all play basketball, which is funny.
Hey, evil has crept in on that family over there. And they going to keep toying with it, right? It's like somebody plays with gasoline and matches them. If they ever get burnt, you can't feel sorry for them. Because they done it to themselves. They know exactly what they're doing. But they do it to try to get drama and chaos and all that shit stirred up. It's the only thing I can think of. I honestly think Ronnie is jealous of Ryan for the success he's had and for who he's become as being famous and popular and all. I think Ronnie wanted that his whole life. So therefore, I kind of think he kind of resents his son. It's the only thing I could think of. Why would you hang out with Gobble? The dude has nothing to offer anybody.
Because my dad played football, and so we'd be out, we'd play horse or something, and if I won, they would, give me a swirly or give me one of those sweaty armpit, I don't know how you say that. My dad actually, as he was getting the duck call business started, he was a commercial fisherman. So wasn't a lot of money, but we ate real good.
No telling if he's
I would
really
go out
over
as a
there.
kid and run the motor for my dad. And
Johnny could be doing that and just try to stir drama up. You see him on all these other panels over there, right? And somebody got mad because I reviewed that video. Well, I don't know if they got mad. They just like, you said you was done with the drama. I said I was done profiting off of it. I didn't want to have nothing. I didn't feel right making money off of that on monetized videos and all that. That's somebody else's life, and the more that I thought about it, the more I felt wrong about it. That's one of the reasons why I gave away that channel. Yeah. Who knows if that shit's even real? Oh, yeah, she tore Gobble's ass up the other night, for sure. She knows. Everybody knows. And the fact that they got something to do with him just says, it just screams even more, But, like Asmic said long time ago, if you sit back and watch people, they'll reveal who they are every time. Every time.
as he picked up these big hoop nets, and I would ride with my mom to the fish market and sell fish, and that's kind of how we made a living. Here's the thing, my parents took in so many like transient people they'd see on the side of the road. They're like, y'all want something to eat? They're like, yeah, we're hungry. They'd pick them up, bring them down the river, feed them, let them stay a couple days, give them a little money. The thing was, my parents didn't have a lot of money at the time, but my dad just wanted to share Jesus with people and get them to heaven. So it didn't matter what color your skin was, how bad your past is. They were just going to help people out. Later in life, when I got up to about 18, I met a couple guys when I was right toward the end of my senior year, and they were doing stuff a little bit different, and I just thought, maybe I should just hang out with these guys some and just kind of experience what the world has to offer. And it got pretty ugly there. Lots of drug use, alcohol. I pretty much did anything that was put in front of me. I remember smoking a joint that was dipped in formaldehyde. They called it a wet daddy. Mm-hmm. Taking pills. To be honest with you, I don't know what all pills I took. I remember waking up. I had one leg in my truck door, and it was on a gravel road, and I was all skin up, my arms. And I drove somewhere that night, and to this day, I don't know what I did that night. And I hope I didn't run over somebody. I don't know.
See, Dan,
I knew at that point I was really off the tracks. But the funny thing is, I didn't stop. I got up the next day. Where's the drugs? Where's the alcohol? Let's just keep going. I was hiding it from my parents, and it was just the battle of trying to. It was just nothing to look forward to.
He thinks he was hiding that from his parents. They knew. You can't, that's one thing with these kids, right? They do shit and you ask them something. Oh, no, that ain't. It's like, why do you think I'm even bringing this up? You should already know I know, or I wouldn't be asking you about it. That question didn't just arise from nowhere.
So empty, no decency whatsoever. One night, got drunk and went to the movies, and my brother Willie left a note in my truck, and he said, "I know what you've been up to. We need to talk." I show up down at Dad's house at 8 in the morning. All my brother's trucks are there, and I'm thinking, what are they all doing here? And I go in the house, and they're just all sitting around the couch looking at me.
It was Jason, Allan, Phil, and Willie were in the living room. I couldn't even get in the living room. I couldn't make my...
You can believe anything that boy says. Nothing. Because he is going to say the worst and any kind of sob-sab story to try to draw somebody in so they'll give him something. He's going to say it. And just like with the no spot thing. You know, one minute it's his sister and then it was him. It's just, you can't believe anything that dude says.
Myself even go in there.
My heart just starts beating out of my chest. And my dad said, "Son, are you ready to change?"
He said, "I just want you to know that we've come to a decision as a family, and it's going to be either you are going to join us, following God, or you're going to go on your own, and you can just, you know, good luck to you in this world, but you'll just be on your own. So there's your two choices."
I just fell down on my knees and started crying. I said, "What took y'all so long?"
And he said, "Dad, I don't deserve to come back. I've been horrible. Let me tell you some more." And Phil said, "No, son, you've told me enough."
You know, I've seen my dad cry maybe 3 times, and that was one of them. And to see my dad that upset, and it was tears of joy.
I want you to know that God loves you and we love you, but you just can't live
just
like
gives him
that. And he
validation,
said,
though.
"I know.
Cam. See, right?
I want to come back home."
My brothers, they were all...
If you do that, then it's like he knows what he's talking about. All that dude does is spread lies. It's not even worth listening to. Anything that Johnny says, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Because how in the fuck would he know? He can't even afford to leave his apartment unless somebody cash apps and, you know, breakfast money or whatever. The dude don't get out nowhere. All he knows is shit that he's put together online.
Crying, and we, at one point, we just got in the middle of the room and just all got down on our knees and just cried and just prayed to God, just thank you for getting me out of this, because I'm done living the way I've been living. And I remember Dad saying, "My prodigal son has returned," and it was just one of the best days of my life.
Who that was.
So he said, "I'm gonna put you on house arrest. You cannot leave this house for 3 months, and you got to duck hunt every single day." I said, "All right, Dad, I think I can do that." I think it took me just going out and experiencing some bad things to know what Jesus really did for me. I realized, oh my gosh, I need Jesus more than I need the next breath I take. I was so happy and elated that, you know, I was a child of God. My name is Jep Robertson, and I am second.
This is Pod 5, the first fully immersive.
This little dude here, you wouldn't think he'd go through nothing. Being born and, you know, have...
Reed Robertson, son of Jason Missy, grew up in the spotlight of our popular show.
Yeah, grew up in the spotlight, having that peer pressure put on him.
Duck Dynasty. But behind the scenes, something nearly crushed him that none of us saw coming. This is Reed Robertson, and this is his chapter in our journey from dysfunction to dynasty.
We're in the wild now.
Yeah, that's what Johnny Cashville was saying earlier. He wanted to go. They're going to have a big one, I'm sure.
A couple years ago, I was I just started to get like real cynical and like looking at everything as in like that's wrong. Like they're looking at that wrong because I thought I had it all figured out. I guess I just got really caught up in thinking that I was better than everyone else because of who my family was. Like, look who I have to, you know.
How cool would it be if Trump went down there for his procession? That would like seal the deal. You know what I mean? We'll see. But if Trump was smart, he'd go. Because Phil was loved by a lot of people, man. A lot of people. He had a big impact for a man that didn't really get in the public eye a lot, other than doing his church sermons and stuff like that. Phil has had a big impact.
Give me the answers and all that. I mean, really, 12 million people watch us every year. I mean, every week, actually.
12 million.
I guess that's part of the pressure that's on me. And I started getting really cynical and like looking down at other people. And before I know it, no one was there. Nobody. It eventually led to like thoughts of suicide, stuff like that. It's going to seem kind of stupid, but everybody was having this huge party, watching movies, you know, and stuff like that after church. And I knew that they were going. And so I went to church and I halfway hoped that they were going to invite me to do that, you know, because I just wanted to so bad. I'd finally hit rock bottom and I wanted to be a part of it again. They weren't gonna, you know, invite me to anything like that. That's pretty hard because I went home and my brother left the house to go to the party and I was just sitting there and I was like, wow, like it just seems so small, but to me, anything to do with a cynical person like me, I think to me, that's just what sticks out of my mind is I was like, what am I doing? Like why would I act like that? And,
so true.
And I went on to just like keep on doing it. You know, it just made me more mad and more mad. I told my youth minister that I pretty much told him that I wanted to kill myself. I'd finally hit rock bottom and I wrote a letter and I was going to do it. I really was. And so then my parents found out about it. And my mom was devastated. Of course, she's crying and all this kind of stuff. She's thinking where she went wrong. And when it wasn't her at all. And I think that right after that night, that sit down with my dad, that's what turned it around. Because my dad told me, he said, that is the most selfish thing that you can do. I'm sorry. Take your time, man. But he told me, he said, that's the most selfish thing that you can do is leave this world because you can't take it. And I really believe that that's true. And I mean, I just thought about like, I'm about to leave all these people that I could have a really huge impact with because I can't take it because I feel bad and because I have a cynical attitude. And that was just, I mean, that really just hit me hard, and that's what turned me around. That statement right there is what turned me around. It was a relief whenever I came out of that. I think that just knowing that I was back on track with Jesus, and knowing that he was okay with me coming back to him, and it doesn't matter what I did, it doesn't matter what I've been through, it doesn't matter what I'm going to do, and he's going to be there and he's going to love me just the same because he died for me. I was finally free of doubts, of having an attitude, of being cynical. And I remember being so relieved. And Jesus brings that relief. I think that that's who taught me that is the men in my life and my family. My name is Reed Robertson, and I'm second.
There's resources out there that help you to contact your birth parent, but there was nothing that said if you find out that your biological dad is a celebrity, this is what you should do.
I knew what Phil was doing. I don't know how he could ever think something like this would not happen.
I looked into her eyes
I was nervous, like, am I really going to go through with this and walk in?
to see if I could see a little of me in there.
I've researched it, I've known about it, and now it's time to tell y'all.
That would be crazy. I wonder how many men that's happened to. Kids. I mean, I know it happens, but I hate them commercials. The commercials make this thing buffer for some reason. What up, BC? You know, that would be wild though, right? Because especially when a youngin's grown, you wondering if there's a reason why they're coming back, if they're looking for something, you know? And then the youngin, damn, are they thinking that I'm just here because I want something? That'd be crazy.
Here's a new story that many haven't heard before. It centers on one woman having to question, are the people in my family really my family? This is the unexpected story of Phyllis, and this is her chapter in our journey from dysfunction to dynasty.
We're in the wild now.
No, I'll get caught up in the moment sometimes.
Run until I was 28.
He was mean-spirited. He ran around on me, smoked dope, he got drunk.
The low point is when I ran Miss Kay and the kids off.
It's going to slow the party and drinking down. It's going to get better. Nope.
So I sat down with this guy. He said, just love God and love your neighbor and try to be good. Can you try?
So in around 2017 at Christmas time, my oldest son took a DNA, like ethnicity test, and he was sharing the results and said, you know, this is really weird because everything that it's showing is not what we've been told. I always had this sense of maybe something's different about me, somewhat in my looks, a lot in how I acted. We looked at the DNA matches, and my sister shows up as being a half sibling. So that's when I knew for sure that my dad, that I thought was my dad, that I shared with my brother and sister all my life, was not really my dad. Do I have a right to know who my dad is? Does he have a right to know he has a daughter? Is he even still alive? We started doing some research. I could find surnames, common names, and I took that information and called my mom and said, so who's my dad? And she's like, oh, I don't know. And she kind of hem-hawed around a bit. And I said, no, I have names. I'm looking at last names. So who is he? And she said, well, Phil. I said, okay, Phil. And she said, well, he's the one that made those duck whistles. I immediately went back and thought, wow, if you plug that into the family tree, so to speak, it made all of the pieces
fall in line. There's resources out there that help you to connect with your biological family. But there was nothing that said, if you find out that your biological dad is a celebrity, this is what you should do. My sister had watched the show and was more familiar, and she said that, his son is a pastor. And so we thought that a letter to the church was a safe place. And when we were looking on the website, we saw that Phil, he was going to be speaking at the end of the year, and at the church, and that we thought, we can drive down there from Missouri. We can drive down there and listen to him speak. And so that's what we did. We sat in the parking lot, and I was nervous. Like, am I really going to go through with this and walk in? And so it seemed like everybody that walked in was wearing camo. And then we saw Phil walk in with an entourage, which was interesting to see that you're looking at who you believe to be your biological dad, and he requires security. That was different. And I had to take a deep breath, and I was tearful. I just wasn't sure if I could go through with it. My husband was there encouraging me. So we finally made it inside the building. We listened to him preach, and then he kind of shot out of there. We had another letter, an exact copy. I kind of felt a lot of anxiety. I was not sure what to do. And I saw Jace, and I'm like, well, I took a deep breath. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to walk up to him. And I did. I said, hey, I have this letter. Would you please give it to your dad? It means a lot to me. And he was like, sure. And I saw him put it in his bag. And I thought, well, I think that letter might get to him.
The first time I found out about our daughter was Allan came down and he said, I've researched it. I've known about it a month. And now it's time to tell y'all.
So an adulterous event 45 years ago steps forth a child.
I don't know how he could ever think something like this would not happen. Because I'd prepared my boys years ago when they were growing up that there would be a boy appear at our house that would look just like them. And he would probably be their brother. So this was 44 years later, and it was our daughter.
They lined up a paternity test. So we both got tested in our respective places, and the results came back. And they called me and they said, Phyllis, we got the results back, and you are you're Phil Robertson's daughter.
See, the mama knew.
Daughter.
One of my boys said, Dad, it's a match.
The mama knew, right? Why would she have named her Phyllis, right? I mean.
I said, bring her on. Tell her to come on down.
There, Gina.
So we flew down and arrived at the Monroe airport, walked off the plane. I was nervous, and Lisa spotted me before I spotted her, and I looked at her, and I will never forget the look on her face. It was just this. It's more of like I remember more how it felt than what she said. And it felt like belonging and it being accepted, and it felt like coming home. We met Al. He was outside with the vehicle, and we both were just tearing up. It was just kind of an awe moment. Like, this is my brother, who I've never met. And he's always been my brother, but I didn't know it. And then we were like, okay, enough of that. We're not going to keep crying the entire time. We drove from there to his house, and we pulled up, and my dad and Miss Kay were standing in their driveway. I got out of the truck and walked over to them, and I'm sure crying. I don't even remember.
I put my hands on her face, and I looked into her eyes to see if I could see a little of me in there. And I did. And I thought, welcome aboard. A daughter I didn't know I had. She was lost, but now she's found.
We went to the living room and sat down on the couch together, just he and I. And we started just visiting, and he was asking me questions, and I asked him questions. They had warned me that he isn't very nurturing But I never felt that from the very beginning. I thought he was very loving, very kind. And so that was a great moment where we just sat on that couch and just visited, just the two of us. There were a lot of moments in my life where I had to think about who is God, my father, because my dad who raised me, he didn't parent. And sometimes I felt like I even had to take care of him. To come back around and find out that my real dad is very competent, intelligent, loves Jesus, can recite scripture verbatim, to find that out, it has helped me view God the Father as more competent, knowing that I can maybe try to be less in control myself and allow God to be more in control. And that does bring me comfort.
That is the ticket right
We
here.
welcome you with open arms, saying, here we are, better late than never.
I had mixed emotions about it. Of course, those bad years, I knew what Phil was doing, and I knew this could have been what happened.
You say, well, it was her life was caused from a sinful act. That is correct. But we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose.
She wanted a relationship, and we wanted a relationship with her.
It's a wonderful thing to bring a family unit together.
I've always prayed and wanted a daughter. I just never thought I'd be this age when I got one.
You thought you had 4 sons. You actually had 4 sons and a daughter. Who knows? Another one may step up. Who knows? You just go with it. Do the right thing. Love God. Love each other. It'll work itself out.
I'm not really sure, still working on my name. Maybe it's Phyllis Harvey Thomas, maybe it's Phyllis Robertson Thomas, but my name is Phyllis, and I am second.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I watched his stories.
A lot of people, one came to me one time and said, so when did you start trusting others? I said, when I started trusting myself to do what was right, I began to trust others. Took a while.
Yeah, about 35 or 40 years.
It took a little time, but we eventually came around. After each of us learned in our own way that we couldn't do it alone. This is the conclusion, with straight talk from our parents, Phil and Kay Robertson, of how a family can go from dysfunction to dynasty.
We're in the wild now. We're in the wild.
Do you drink coffee or tea?
I love iced tea. I don't like coffee.
To each his own. Now you see this? That is a coffee bottle. See right here? Here's to you. Is this black? This is like
motor oil.
Like motor oil.
What do you say when you hit your thumb with a hammer?
Good garden seed. Why did I do that?
At the Robertson household, there's no profanity. Good garden seed. Not bad.
What's an everyday smell that you love?
The smell of jambalaya when it's down to the final stages. The smell of a good roast.
I like the smell of my dogs after they've been groomed. Just so lovable and sweet.
Miss Kay, what's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, I'm real big on a rolling dough. Peach cobbler, chocolate pie, coconut pie, egg custard pie, which is from the past, by the way. Most women wouldn't know that.
She's a terrific cook. No doubt about that. A wonderful cook.
Not perfect.
I'd say pretty close.
Phil, I ruined a pie. I ruined a cake last night. That's so nice of you to say that.
Yeah, you're a little bit heavy on the butter.
Oh, wow. Well, she was beautiful back then.
How do you raise your sons?
Yeah, I thought of that too, Blue Eyes.
I hug them a lot, and I tell them good things about them, that I'm proud of them.
If
But
I remember
I'm
right-
still not too old if I want to correct them on something.
If I remember right, he said his mama sent him that when he was in Vietnam, and he's had that cup that whole time. That thing looked dingy though. I ain't gonna lie.
Then I will do it. I did tell one of them the other day, I said, if you do that, I'm going to get out of belt and whip you. And then they bust out laughing.
Back in the day, if they disrespected mom, 3 licks. But when about 15 or 16, the 3 licks stage passed. Then it was advice and counsel.
Or take away their, remember when you took away Jep's truck?
Yeah. So that's the way the Robertson
Code of conduct.
We put one of them one time under house arrest. That's Jep though, remember? We put him under house arrest for about a month.
No, it was 3 months.
3 months. He was going down a path that was not wise. And his opening line after we had a speech, his brothers were there, I was there, his mother were there, all the family.
It was an intervention, really.
And it was intervention. He's seated in a chair, and all he said was, when we all got done with, each one of us spoke to him, telling him the error of his ways. He said, after everyone talked, he said, what took y'all so long?
Oh, and then everybody cried. Everybody in the family, didn't they? And he just kind of went down on his knees, and it was just a moment.
It ended well because he's now, what's that group he's with, helping orphans?
All God's Children. Yes, that's where he works, helping orphans. But I was going to tell you, the worst 2 that got into trouble were Allan the preacher and Jep the baby. So the other 2, not that they were perfect at all. Jason started arguing with me when he was 3 years old, and he never stopped. He's 50. We still argue.
Or as I call him, Lone Wolf McQueen.
Yeah, that's the best name ever. 3 of my sons, Allan, Jason, and Willie Jess, they're exactly like their dad in one thing. You will never make them do what they don't want to do. Now you tell him, well, Phil, I'm going to make you do this. Forget it. It's not going to work. God made him like that. I don't know why. And those 3 boys are like that.
What can I say? When I was young, I was
God made
there
him
was
like
a lot
that,
of
and I don't know
stupidity.
why.
I didn't hear.
Well, and I think the one that you passed on a little bit was your lack of trust of people.
Yep.
And you had that, and they saw that.
Someone asked me one time, they said, so when did you start trusting others? I said, when I started trusting me as far as I could see me. I said, when I started trusting myself to do what was right, I began to trust others.
That's what he just said.
Yeah, about 35 or 40 years.
Yeah.
Did you catch what he just said? When he started trusting himself, he started trusting others. And, you know, that's something that I've learned over this internet, right? A lot of these people, they'll come on and say this old crazy shit. And really, they're talking about their self. And that's why they think that way. They think everybody else is doing exactly that because that's what they would do. A lot of projection, man.
About 35, 40 years, but it finally worked itself out, you know.
Yeah, who had patience with you?
You had the patience of Job, honey.
What helped cause that change for you and your family?
Well, it's pretty simple. All scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness so that the man or woman of God will be known for every good work. So you use the scriptures to train your children. You say, we're to be a little strange. When we should curse, we don't. When we should be mad, we're not. When we should be ungrateful, we're thankful. It's the greatest story ever told, and it's the greatest hope a human being can have.
Are you ready to sell your house? I will buy it. You can get
No,
a
you
cash
ain't.
offer in 24 hours or less.
All of our sons, they did say, We really appreciate how y'all raised us. Now that we have children coming up, now we're beginning to see why Dad and Mom did this, did that, did this, did that. Well, so they live and learn, see.
Today, how are you able to help other families?
I work with recovery women, and so we try, me and my other friends, to try to help them to learn how to live a good, godly life and how to be a mother, how to be a wife. They just didn't know. They had nobody to teach them what's right. The other night, this has happened many, many times, but this one is fresh. I don't do that to you. And you know what? A girl wanted to confess Jesus as her Lord. She wants John the Baptist here to baptize her Sunday morning and confess Jesus. If you knew where she came from, you would not believe this girl has called on Christ, but she did.
You did well with her, Miss Kate.
Thank you. Now I'm not talking anymore because you have to have the floor. We fight like this about talking.
The last question, what's one good piece of advice that a family member has given you?
I'm glad I had a lot of patience. My grandmother taught me that. She told me to stay with him. Stay with him.
You're a good woman.
And my mama said, don't marry him.
Your mama told you not to marry me.
Because you were poor.
Jason's, when he met his in-laws, they told Missy, don't marry that dude. And then Willie, his in-laws said, don't marry him, Corey. So now they all work for,
Yeah, Willie actually hires his father-in-law works for him.
Father-in-law said, don't marry him. He looked up one day and he's working for Willie. Well, there you go.
That was
Rednecks made good.
Come with us, with us, with us. Way down, are you coming with? Way down, are you coming with?
Let's see if something else gonna pop up here. Rest in peace to Phil. Godspeed, brother. Dude had a big impact. And if somebody like Phil can do it, you can do it too, right?
The Robertson family is telling it like it is, our true story in The Blind. Here's the next episode of the Blind Movie Podcast with my brother Phil, his wife Miss Kay, and their son Willie.
Y'all watched the movie?
We loved
The Blind. You lived the movie. What'd you think?
I loved it. I loved it. The girl looked just like me.
Did
The boy needed a crew cut, but
Did
other than
anybody
that, he was
spoil it and
perfect.
tell you how it ended? Or were you able to watch it without knowing the ending?
I knew the ending, silly. I lived it.
So how was it? Was it exciting to have the movie made, or it was?
You used to put it out during Christmas time, Blue Eyes.
Well,
There used to be
it's
this old
like you
man.
got to have the bad to get to the good.
My best friend, I used to go to his grandparents' house on Christmas, and his grandfather was into those trains, and like they had a pretty good size enclosed back porch. They called it, I think, a Florida room or something like that. It had the all out windows and all. But for most holidays, that's where everybody ate. But during Christmas time, he set up all these trains. He had the towns and all that stuff. It was pretty neat to watch, but he would start setting it up right after Thanksgiving. And he'd be working on that thing right up until Christmas. But it took him about a month to set all that stuff up. And he enjoyed it. The last time I went over there and I seen it not set up, I kind of thought to myself, yeah, it won't be long now. And it wasn't. It wasn't. But yeah, I remember that.
Right? Mr. Bad Boy.
Well, when you look back, and you look back at, I'm now 77, so it was like this much.
And Bree built different back then, Blue Eyes, for sure.
It was fast.
It was incredibly fast.
You know, when I watched the movie, I think it could have went either way.
That's it.
Like it could have went a different way, and none of this stuff
Big time
would have happened the way we know it, right?
Do you think Dad's glad I stayed? What do you think, Will?
Yeah. Are you glad you stayed? That's
Yeah.
the question.
Well, at the time, I was wondering, but
Yeah, you do.
it's
I'd
worth
like
it
to
now.
see it, Blue Eyes.
When I
for
see
sure.
all my boys, all their families.
Well, we watched how you guys grew up. Now, was that pretty accurate?
You know, not many young girls in high school load the car up with grub and go down there in the middle of another family unit. All of us standing there looking. You know, what you got to eat in there? We were poor, dirt poor.
Now, what did your family think about this?
Oh, yeah, well, you know, my dad passed away when I was 14. So it'd be my mom, and she said, "You don't want to date that poor boy. You'll wind up poor all your life."
Oh, wow.
You never heard that before, have you?
So, yeah, so she didn't see that as a positive. And
Yeah, when Phil said, "I'll be there about dark." Well, I'm out there looking at, well, how long is it going to be dark? I can't forget. He said, "I'll be there about," what'd you say? Noon, I guess. I mean, nothing had a time. It just had whatever was happening outside.
I never got around to building wearing a ring or a watch. I never got to that level. I just didn't fool with it. But
did you think you were going to make money one day?
I would say after going to college, getting a couple of degrees, teaching a little school around, you know, I decided about right along in there. I'll top out at spend 30
Damn,
years
that's
here, and I'll
the
top out
old
at about
grannies. That's how the old
30
grannies
grand
are.
a year. I just looked around and said, I can beat that. So that's when I started thinking about, I need to build some duck calls that sound like ducks. How would I start? So that's kind of.
Yeah, because the movie's got you like really thinking about just being in the woods and hunting all the time.
I was trying to figure out how you make a living at that. So
And you did.
Then duck calls came up. I said, duck calls. I said, yeah. So I literally started. I'd never done any woodworking at all, but the cost of all that to switch over and start building duck calls, I said, I'll fish the river, but you could never get rich off of that because that's about $200 a week on a good week.
Yeah.
And other times it wasn't.
So I just finally got duck calls, the dream of building duck calls.
But one of the biggest mistakes we made, Phil had it all added up to exactly what was
Blue Eyes,
needed to start the business, which was a great idea and everything.
I want to say that there's a train museum where they got them trains where you can ride them and stuff, and that's what their draw is letting people ride those scaled down trains. You ought to talk to them about it and see what they say. They might be able to give you more information on it.
Then I said, Phil, you don't think you should have got some extra for what about us living? You didn't think about that, did you?
No,
and Phil
no.
said, well, I can catch a few fish and do all that in the house. Now that scared me because I thought.
That banker 30 years later, someone said, I don't know whether he's still living or not, but at some point he told that story. He said, I'd never seen somebody come from that rags to riches. I never saw that. So he was looking at, when I first walked in there, he told that story for the 30 years of his life, the last 30. So you never know.
Yeah, you need to think about when you borrow to start a business.
He went out on
allow for living too.
Took me about 5 years to pay the guy who told me, he said, just show him this. This is my financial statement. Just show him that. So I did. So it took me about 5 years.
And we paid him off.
We paid him off. So we slowly paid it off. He said, I don't get in a hurry, but put him whatever you got, So I just slowly paid him off. It took about 5 years, but I did.
How important was the move? Like you guys moved here pretty much isolated from Most
The way, the way we wanted it.
I took
because
another.
he changed lives.
Yeah.
He went from one life to another life.
All my old friends were culled.
We were hiding
All
out
of
from
my new friends were brothers, biblical brothers.
I came over here first because somebody put us out, and you were there. You were traveling in the night. We got out, and so I had to get that little bitty apartment because it was based on your income. So I got it, because I didn't have but very much income, just working in an office like I did. And so when he decided to change his life and become a different person, we were already settled in that little apartment. So he joined us, but it was so little. Phil was in there trying to cook and bumping into, the kitchen was so small, I'm telling you, but he made do, because he knew he had lost his family.
Blue Eyes, I just looked it up. It's called Train Mountain. I'll share it with you for just a second. Is it kind of like that? Is that the kind of train he built? I get that too, Blue Eyes. Some people are just that way.
And then we were back.
Yeah, how will you use the movie?
Some people just don't like to be
Do you
bothered,
think it'll, like when you're sharing the
And
gospel?
it's all
now,
good.
Will you reference the movie now?
I will.
Because before, you would just, it was your story, So I'm wondering now, will you actually say, hey, if someone comes and says, I saw your movie and you're going to share the gospel?
If the movie shows one thing, it shows how stupid a young man is.
Yeah.
That's about what
Do you think that's good, though, to
Smaller,
show? I mean,
They got them smaller.
Yeah.
I think if we convert one individual.
All right. Well, y'all, I'm fixing to jump off here. I've been on here for 2.5 hours. And like I say, Phil's left a big impact on people. And I think more people should be that way, right? Understanding and patient and try to realize where other people are coming from. We all don't walk in the same shoes as everybody else. And one thing I've noticed, like over the last few years being on social media, a lot of people, their insecurities, they shine through in their comments and they don't even realize it. They'll be trying to cut you down, and it's like, bro, slow down. I know you got a lot of hurt inside you, but you ain't got to try to shove it off on somebody else. But just remember, man, just because you don't see things a certain way, don't mean that the person that's trying to tell you something or trying to show you something ain't right. Take a minute, put yourself in their shoes and look at what they're trying to, look at the world through their eyes is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. We're not all made the same. We're not all going to agree on everything. One thing that we all going to do, we all going to live and die. And just try to live the best life you can. That's all I can tell you. Enjoy yourself. You don't live but once. Hey, I appreciate y'all spending a few hours with me this afternoon. And we'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a good Memorial Day. And don't be out drinking and driving. Peace.